Welcome to the broadcast, everybody, and thank you for joining me. Now, if I seem a little bit grumpy and a little bit tetchy, it's because spring has sprung here in the kingdom. It's a very sunny day. Everybody's milling about, looking very joyous and happy. And the sun's streaming through the window, and I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. That's when I turn into Mr. Grumpy, I'm afraid. So it is what it is. You know, if I was in Saint-Tropez, if I was in Monaco, if I was out sunning myself in a beautiful English country garden with a jug of lemon cherryade by my side, ice in it, beautiful, lovely, in the shade, in a breeze, that's when I can enjoy the sunshine. But on a day-to-day basis, everybody's gadding about with these smiles and getting the suntan lotion on, and I just hate it. I much prefer drowsy, dreary, grey, drizzly weather. That is when I feel most comforted. But it is what it is. One thing that did cheer me up was the beautiful look of the Princess Royal at the Commonwealth service yesterday. She looked so lovely, and she looked happy. You know, she's quite at peace with her role as the Princess Royal these days. She's so comfortable with it, even in the wake of her mother's death. She's just there. Wasn't always so much in the early years, but now she is just there. And I bring that to your attention because I received a question about that very title of Princess Royal from Donnie. When does Charlotte become Princess Royal, you want to know? And so I thought I'd indulge that question by letting you know that it is not a given that Princess Charlotte will have that title bestowed upon her. And by the way, it is the highest honour that can be bestowed upon a female member of the royal family, other than Queen Regnant. It's just below that. But it is the highest honour. So for those of you that are concerned that she isn't a duchess or a countess, remember that her first husband, Captain Mark Phillips, is believed to have turned down the offer of an earldom upon his marriage to Anne, which would have set them off on that sort of path. You know, take heart in the fact that Princess Royal is the highest ranking honour that a female royal can receive. So it's no small thing. It's not guaranteed that it will be given to Charlotte. I know everybody says it as a rumour, and the likelihood is that in the passage of time it will be bestowed upon Princess Charlotte as the daughter of a monarch when William's time as monarch comes, because it can only be gifted by the monarch to the monarch's eldest child. And of course, Charles doesn't have a daughter, so it wouldn't be bestowed on either of his children, and Anne still lives and breathes, and the title is hers for life, and hopefully she'll live a long life, you know, another 20 or 30 years. So if it is to be bestowed upon Charlotte, it will be 1, after Charles dies, and 2, after Anne dies. While they both live and breathe, it is not possible for the title to go on to little Charlotte, little Lottie. But her time will come, I guess, you know, likelihood, who can say? Who can say how long a reign will last, how long a life will last? But the likelihood will be she'll be in her 30s or 40s, I'd imagine. But because also you don't want to just pass on a title immediately someone dies. You know, you have that mourning period out of respect, and in due course, at the right moment. For example, as we've seen with the newly created Duke of Edinburgh, you know, you wait for the right moment for it to happen, as Charles did so very deftly. So we will see what happens in the future. It is, of course, likely to see a new Princess Royal in the shape of Charlotte. But as for this moment in time, I think we're all perfectly happy, aren't we, with the Princess Royal that we have in the form of Anne, because she is so very splendid. And you know, if letters patent hadn't been amended in 1948 by King George VI, because he saw what was coming, then Charles would have been known as the Earl of Merioneth, and Anne would have been Lady Anne Mountbatten. Lady Anne Mountbatten. They would have inherited titles from Philip until the moment when Princess Elizabeth became Queen and inherited the throne. But that 1917 letters patent that we refer to so often, it didn't provide for the possibility of a female heir in the male line. So that is why in 1948, not long before Princess Elizabeth gave birth to Charles, the king issued that letters patent that gave royal status to her children. But I, for one, am very happy with all the senior ranking female royals. Very happy with them. I think Queen Camilla is an absolutely impeccable consort, I really do. We don't have a regnant, Elizabeth was Queen Regnant because she was born to queendom. Then we have Queen Consort in the form of Camilla. So you have Regnant, Consort, you have Dowager in the form of a widowed queen. For example, the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, she was Queen Dowager, but because she shared a name with her daughter Elizabeth, that would cause confusion. So that is why they sort of drummed up Queen Mother for her. So she became Queen Mother, because remember, when Princess Elizabeth was born, it wasn't a given that she would become queen. That only became clear a few years down the line. And anyway, so Regnant, Consort, Dowager, Mother, these are all the various types of queen. Well, there's a few more, but I'm talking about royal queens, my dear. Stunt queen, that would fall under the umbrella. Meghan would fall under that umbrella. Stunt queen. And then there's the likes of me, bitter old queen. And of course there is Queen Regent, including Catherine Parr and Catherine of Aragon, actually, for brief spells, I believe. But it's unlikely we'll see that again, and nowadays those duties would most likely fall to the councillors of state. But the King and Queen Consort joined other members of the royal family yesterday for a really lovely service at Westminster Abbey, and a congregation of 2,000 to celebrate the remarkable organisation which is the Commonwealth. The 56 countries making up the Commonwealth work together on the most pressing issues of our time. And this was followed by a reception at Buckingham Palace at which the Commonwealth Charter was signed by His Majesty. It was real blowy weather, did you see? Very blustery, and the Queen had a Marilyn moment, which was rather endearing, I have to say. Very nice. But yes, they nearly got blown away. Catherine had to hold on to her hat. And Camilla was dressed in blue. Fiona Clare, she loves to wear, and a Philip Tracy hat. And she wore the late Queen's sapphire and diamond brooch. And Catherine won high praise for her elegance. She wore Erdem, and she wore Queen Alexandra's brooch, the three feathers brooch, that famous emblem of the Prince of Wales feathers rendered in diamond. Really stunning. And the two-tiered earrings that she wore as well were once Diana's. The Princess Royal was in gay spirits, looking younger than springtime, and in muted greens. She clutched a posy of seasonal blooms. And the newly appointed Duchess of Edinburgh, wasn't she a dream in off-white? And it was noted all over the press that she gave a little affectionate bump, a little boom-boom. She gave a little affectionate bump to the King, just to dispel some of those rumours with regards to the Duke of Edinburgh and the Duchess of Edinburgh. And, some will say there's friction between the two, this, that and the third. I mean, nonsense on stilts. You can see the affection between them. And actually the dynamics between that regal core of the family were very much on display. And they're the kind of dynamics that can't be faked. You could see the warmth, as you always do, between both them and the King, and also between the Prince and Princess of Wales and their stepmother, Queen Camilla. Yes, you could. You can see they are so cosy, and it is so modern, and it is so mature. But this Commonwealth service was a spice world. Colours of the world, every boy and every girl. Yes, it was Ginger Spice. She was in the house, adding her own little spicy mix to things, wearing off-white, actually in very similar colours to the Duchess of Edinburgh. Similar palette it was. She's an ambassador, you see. She is an ambassador for something to do with the Commonwealth anyway, so that's why she was pottering around. There was lots of dancing, lots of performing, lots of celebration, and lovely Baroness Scotland was there. Well, this was rather lovely and a little bit poignant because the first set of special stamps featuring the King's silhouette is released next week. I think they're actually available for pre-order or order from today. Don't quote me. But they're going on general release next week, and they're so pretty. They're sort of featuring back garden flowers, which is very suitable for Charles, isn't it, with his love of gardening. But you'll see 10 flower stamps: sweet pea, iris, lily. That's Lily with a Y. Can we just please get that straight? Lily with a Y, not Lily Bet. Lily, sunflower, fuchsia, tulip, peony, nasturtium, which is a little favourite of mine, I've got to tell you. Oh, how my heart belongs to the humble nasturtium. Nasturtium, I think it was the first flower that I ever grew. Perhaps that's why. Nasturtium, rose and dahlia. And this ends the use of Queen Elizabeth's head for commemorative stamps. Off with her head. Off with your head, my dear. We love you, but you did your time. Now you can go rest in peace. And you've got Charles's mug on display. But the regular stamps featuring King Charles won't go into circulation until next month, towards the coronation, when he'll appear on regular first and second class stamps. Brian May has popped up lots of times playing at royal events, hasn't he, with his band Queen. Oh, wouldn't it have been fabulous to have a Sir Freddie Mercury? He never got to have that moment, did he? But I'm sure he would be either Sir or Dame by now. I can imagine him certainly as a Dame Commander of the British Empire. But instead we have Brian May, and he is now Sir Brian May. He was when he received the honours at the end of last year, wasn't he? But he's been officially knighted, made Knight Bachelor by King Charles today, and he receives that knighthood for services to music and charity. And actually, he always used to put me in mind of King Charles's predecessor, which was so long ago now, wasn't it? But he was the one with the fabulous long locks, and Brian used to look a little bit like that, didn't he? I'm sure that was an influence on his fashion, but I digress. We are also celebrating today the gorgeous Yolanda Brown, OBE, who performed at the Commonwealth ceremony yesterday, and she receives her honour for services to music, music education and broadcasting. Isn't she absolutely lovely? Mrs. Michael Tyndall, as the line of succession has it, Mrs. Michael Tyndall, our lovely Zara, she was seen hand in hand with a pal at Cheltenham for the festival. Oh, I want to be her pal at the festival and roam around hand in hand with her. Yes, I do. Zara dear, come on. She loves a tipple just like me. Just like me at the races. That's what the races are for. And these festivals, getting drunk and getting trolleyed. Yeah, having a nice old flirt, that's what it's for. Well, she was having a nice old flirt with Nat Pinkham. Did you see Nat Pinkham? And Nat Pinkham is a former associate of Harry's, the Duke of Sussex. Yes, there were rumours and whispers back in 2003, going back there to Harry's party days, yeah. They were seen around a lot together. Chummy, yeah. Drinking buddies and confidant is how they were described. I wonder if that's how they described Sasha Walpole. Oh yes, Nat Pinkham saw the royal Pinky by all accounts. That frostbitten Pinky, poor girl. But anyway, Zara wore burgundy Karen Millen and a Juliet Botterill hat and clutched a Strathbury bag. And doesn't she look an absolute picture? And the Queen was back at work today. This time she was unveiling a plaque at Elmhurst School in Birmingham to celebrate its centenary. And this, of course, was a visit that was postponed from a few weeks ago, when the Queen had COVID. But she's fine now, and she really wanted to make this an appointment. She loves being patron at this establishment. She's been patron since 2006. This is her 5th visit there. And the school itself is associated with the Birmingham Royal Ballet. She peeled off a golden sheet to uncover the plaque, and she wore a ballerina brooch. Isn't it charming and whimsical? I really enjoyed that. She always puts those little personal touches to the outfit for the day. She was treated to a performance from pupils and posed with the troupe on stage, receiving flowers. I'm never really keen, to be honest, when they put flowers in a box and give it to her. I understand that they want to avoid dripping water and stuff, but in my opinion, if you're offering a bouquet to a royal, then you can reduce the size of it. It doesn't have to be so big. A lovely posy or a nosegay, but I don't like them delivered in a box. I mean, this isn't some sort of Amazon warehouse. You know what I mean, my dear? I get the thought's lovely. You don't want to see a queen wandering around clutching boxes. This seems to become the new thing. I don't like it. Let's get things together. Let's keep standards, especially at a ballet school. But she spoke very passionately about how much she admires the world of ballet and what they get up to. And the children responded in kind. They absolutely were enthralled by Her Majesty and really took to her. The young people adore our Queen, our beautiful, gracious Queen. They really do. I love winding up the Camilla haters. Crunchy Dragon says, Edward and Sophie have my respect. Most Americans would not know who they are. That is how well behaved they are. That was such a prescient comment, Crunchy Dragon. It really was. And I know that many of you feel the same, especially about unsung heroes such as Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. And the word that comes to mind is grace. They possess grace, as many members of the royal family do. Not all of them, but I would say a good, decent majority. They possess grace, and it is why you do not see, ever, preening in the way of a celebrity, a minor celebrity such as Meghan Markle. Preening like some vainglorious parrot or bird. I don't know what birds are vain. A peacock, I suppose you could say. But, you know, the female peahens aren't quite so splendiferous, are they, as the regal males. But she goes for it, preening away, looking for the limelight, animated at every moment. This is one of the big differences of royalty, and is what you don't see abroad in other famous types, because most famous types have made a play for the limelight in some way, whether they are working in public life politically or through the arts and culture, whatever it is, my dear. Most of them have made a play for the spotlight. Royalty were born into it, and that's why some of them look rather uncomfortable with it. Some of you also mentioned that Edward has looked bashful or shy at times. I'm not sure they're the right word, but I understand what you mean. He can have a little sense of awkwardness here and there, but that is what makes him endearing. Do you see? That's what makes us fall in love with them, because it is with a reluctant isn't necessarily the right word, but they never asked for this attention. They never asked to be in this scenario. Fate brought them there. But this is the fabulous thing, and what I hope that royalty never loses. Never loses, you know, when the cameras are trained, especially on all the old guard royals of the day, they would just look rather glum most of the time. You know, they became famous for looking rather glum. You know, cheer up, love. But it's like most human beings that you see on the high street, unless they're talking with someone or meeting someone, they do have what's known as a resting you-know-what face, don't they? A resting witch face with a B, because that is most people's natural countenance. And I find it very royal that they're not perma-grinning away with all 12 of their teeth on show all the time, because it ain't natural. But it's becoming more natural to this Instagram generation, you see. And that is what Meghan was used for. And I suppose, in fairness to her, perhaps she didn't understand, you know, that was the world she was in, hadn't been trained into this new world. But if she was this wonderful actress, or if she was trying to surrender to the world of royalty, as she says she was, making such an effort to do everything right and wear the right colours, and I wore neutrals so that I wouldn't stand out against everyone. Well, you'd think that she could have learned, that she could relax a little bit. Harry could have told her, relax a bit, love. You don't have to light up with a megawatt smile all the time. I'm not saying that Catherine never does that, but with Meghan, you know, every moment searching for the spotlight, knowing it's on you. You know, all the expressions, my dear. It's just not necessary. She could have just relaxed and, you know, been glum-faced from time to time. It doesn't harm you to look a bit human here and there. You are not working the runway. You're walking into St. Paul's Cathedral. You know what I mean? Catherine can't help it because she's got a model figure and she looks like a model. So, you know, she can't help it. She's always going to look, you know, she's got the fabulous teeth, the fabulous figure, the fabulous walk, the fabulous wardrobe. So she can't help it. You could put her in a sackcloth. Well, you could put her in camo gear like she was put in last week, and a beanie hat, and get her rough and tumbling around the floor, and she will look like a movie star, because this is a Catherine we're talking about, the Princess of Wales. You know, she is a natural. She is a rave. If you were to do the same with the likes of Markle, put her in old scruffs, rolling around the floor, well, it wouldn't be quite the same effect. But, you know, do you know what I mean? Do you understand? Do you understand the sort of difference that I'm trying to draw up here between the two? You know, not just between them and Meghan, but between them and, you know, commoners in general. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, they channel the royal spirit. They channel the royal spirit. You have never seen Sophie baying for the limelight. Ever. And the paradox of that is that she ends up with, as you said, my dear, with exactly as you said, respect. Because you have an innate understanding that they are not grafting and grifting in the same manner. It's about modesty. It's about modesty. I mean, if I'd have married William, for example, if he'd taken me on as a fiancé, and I was your Princess of Wales right now, well, just imagine it, my dears, how fabulous. But I would know my place. And if you tell someone like Mark, know your place, then what's my place? Are you being a bigot? Are you being a racist? Are you being anti-feminist? My place is the same as yours. That ain't the thing. I am glamorous. I am glamorous. Princess Michael of Kent, when she was working as a working member of the royal, she's now sort of retired, and she's still glamorous in her way. I mean, I didn't enjoy the cane that she brought to the latest service, the Christmas service. I didn't think that was very elegant. But actually, that shows you her royal side, because it was a rather modest cane that she was using to walk with. A little bit too ugly for my personal taste. I don't think she needed to be quite that basic. But what I'm saying is, Princess Michael of Kent, like me, enjoys glamour and enjoys stepping into the limelight when, at certain times, when it is required, required to glitter. Luckily, we have the personalities that glitter as well, so we don't have to rely on the physical touches of glamour. But, they can also help to illuminate, set a scene, and express oneself. Princess Michael of Kent has that. She's an extremely glamorous woman at very many points of time. But how many times has she tried to upstage the Queen? How many times did she try to upstage Diana? Never. Not once. And she used to be on the balcony at very many major events and all those kind of things. But I was never taken away to her, even though she could have done it. She could have tried to upstage them, perhaps failed a few times, especially around Diana, but she could have tried to, bring out that narcissistic side of her personality and work it a bit more and get into the public consciousness a bit more, because most people, barely give her a second thought, or her husband, Prince Mark, especially these days. But she could have been far more overbearing, far more overwhelming. But because it manages to harness a certain modesty in her nature at certain times, not so apparently vainglorious as she might sometimes be made out to be. Even her harshest detractors would say that she is an impeccable royal, and always has been an impeccable royal. What I'm saying is that, there are times you switch it on, times you switch it off. You don't always have to have it on all the time. It's just grasping and vulgar. This is what we talk about when it's vulgarity, and it ain't that difficult. I mean, it is a balancing act, but it ain't that difficult unless you've got a completely out of control, untrammeled ego. Harry, Meghan, knock knock, what's going on? Anne Taylor says, I don't think Meghan will worry about looking like a hypocrite if she goes to the coronation. She hasn't worried about looking like a hypocrite up to now. Well, you have a very good point. You have a very good point, my dear, and I take it on board. She takes relish. She actually seems to take relish at some points, doesn't she? There was the Queen's funeral, the event surrounding that, when suddenly she sprang a leak, a little tear of emotion. Granny, Lilibet's great grandma, we're gonna miss you so much. She sprang a leak, or she'd been peeling onions, I don't know, one of the two, my dear, but she used using her Oscar-winning acting ability to squeeze one out. And a tear. Yeah. Got her so blubby, so emotional. She seemed to take relish there. That's what I mean about calling the limelight to oneself, But all she had to do was just stand there, melancholy, with grace, but she had to go that extra mile. And, come on, I'm going to get a tear. I'm going to get a tear out. Prove that it's like that scene in Kill Bill where she's tucked up in bed, injured, paralysed, and she has to force her energy to make her little toe wiggle. And eventually she gets her. That's what it was like watching her crying at the funeral. And I wonder how she felt that moment where she was obscured by the yellow candle and they had to sing at the funeral. What was going through their minds then? God save our gracious king. God save our noble king. Harry was barely moving, it was like a ventriloquist mouth, wasn't it? Do we really want the cameras on us right now, saying that my father is noble and gracious? They were really caught in the middle there, weren't they, of their besmirchments and apparent praise. How could they possibly sing it without looking like a hypocrite? Well, they did, and Meghan mumbled her way through it too. I mean, what she was really saying under her breath, we don't know. She might tell us one day, well, actually, I made up my own lyrics for it. God save the treacherous king. God save the cruel king. That's what I was really saying. You never know what she'll come out with, and you never know what they'll sing at the coronation if they're forced to sit there and sing those words and that lyric. But as you say, you can't put it past them. She doesn't worry about looking like a hypocrite, and that's what happens when you've got no conscience. And I've got to tell you, my dear, I've got to tell you, one of the things people are saying behind the scenes is they want to get these kids to the coronation to deflect the harsh criticisms that they might otherwise face. What a distraction it is, isn't it? You know, there's them two sitting there that are open to all kinds of besmirchments and disparagements, and then there's, oh, look, it's Archie, look, it's Lily, deflect, look at them, not at us, look at us, look at us, look at them, look at the children. You can't possibly boo and hiss at two little innocent children, can you? Especially when they're prince and princess. Ms. Lou says, River, no one makes me laugh like you do. Thank you, my dear. I have a question. I thought Harry would not come to the coronation unless there was a conversation with his dad and brother, and there had to be an apology for his wifey. That hasn't happened, so why do they come? He decided to go back on his demands. I'm really confused on this. Well, he's confused too, my dear. He's confused too. He's going back and forth on this in his own mind. You know, his family legacy is at stake. The name of his family continuing generations and merging the family for generations. He and his wife want to create the Harkles. The Harkles. That is what you're going to see with this empire going. That is the avenue they're going to go down more and more. They might even end up doing a sex tape. Who put it past them? You know, that is the route they've decided to go down, which is so utterly unroyal, and which is why it would not be unreasonable to issue new letters patent to deprive any of their offspring. Sadly for the offspring, but deservedly for the Harkles themselves, deprive them of having any further titles. You know, but as I revealed to you in a broadcast last week, my information is that it was their refusal to accept the Earl of Dumbarton title, Earl of Dumbarton, for Archie, and of Lady Lily for Lily. It was that refusal and insistence on branding their kids from the get-go. They wanted to brand them Prince and Princess from the get-go, not wait until Queen Elizabeth died. They wanted to brand them Prince and Princess from the get-go for their Harkles world and merchings. It was that insistence that had a lot to do with the Oprah incident, the Oprah fallout, of course. And the truth is that they want to associate those princely titles with Charles's reign from the get-go, which means the coronation, which means the burnishing of image. I've spoken about this burnishing of optics of imaging and optics into public consciousness. I've spoken about this since the late Queen died and before. It's imperative that various images are burnished into public consciousness in this era, at the very outset of the Carolean era. And Harry knows this. He's wise to it. And he wants to make sure that he and his offspring are also part of that burnishing of imagery. And that is why he got so paranoid about the names. Neither of them wanted to be known as the Dumbos of Dumbarton, which was incredibly vulgar of them and an insult to the great people of Dumbarton. You know, they probably took umbrage at being gifted Sussex by the late Queen. Probably took umbrage at that because it's got the word sex in it. You know, you wouldn't put it past them, would you? And just imagine Meghan going, "What's Sussex? Sex? What is it?" Sussex, it's a county, a former kingdom in England. I've never heard of it. Well, had you heard of Edinburgh or Wessex or Albany or Clarence or any of the others? Well, they've got a nicer ring to them, but Sussex? Well, you are sexy, my dear. So that's exactly what people will say. They will think it's cheap. Why can't you be the Duke of Markle? I think this is sexist and racist. Why can't you be the Duke of Markle, and I shall be the Princess of Markle. Princess Markle. You know, why not, Harry? Meghan. So that is quite clearly another reason upon reason why they've tried to usher out these titles in advance of the coronation. Because, of course, if, and I'm only saying if, the children are part of the coronation, then their name will be appearing over all kinds of memorabilia and ephemera, and, you know, they wanted to affirm those titles. Well, my fruits, you really are a bunch of angels for hanging out with me today. I very much appreciate your company, and I look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Enjoy the rest of the week. My tip jar is in the description box below, and I bid you a very good day, and toodle pip.